Welcome to the Through the Lens of Learning podcast. If we haven't met, hello, I'm your host, Dr. Tracy Shroyer. I'll give you 2 words that summarize me to a T: lifelong learner. Join me as I share a bit about my own journey of curiosity, learning, and wonder. You'll also get to hear from some phenomenal individuals on what they're curious about learning and what they have to share too. Are you itching with excitement yet? I am, so let's get started. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Through the Lens of Learning podcast. And today I have guest Lindsay Dunlap with me. So Lindsay, thank you for being a guest.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. So one of the things that I ask each of my guests is, how do you define learning?
I feel like the older I get, the more it is like the school of hard knocks, like life. That's and I say that from the aspect of really pay attention, like acknowledge that the experiences around you are there to teach you. And I think for better or for worse, and I know I've told my parents this before, like it really sucks that you have to get so like to a certain point in life to really appreciate some of these things that are happening. So I guess the best way I can define learning is awareness, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of your environment, being aware of the people in your life, and really just seeing what it's teaching you, whether it's serving where you want to go, whether it's not serving you. And then we get to kind of stumble through sometimes of what we do with that information. so that also it's a whole learning in itself.
Yes. And we kind of talked even a little bit before we jumped on about having the experience and being able to go through just life experiences, work experiences, things like that before you even go to college. We kind of talked a little bit about that. Lindsay, this is off the wall question. If you had to go back and tell your younger self, maybe before you even went to college, about how to be better at learning, from there forward, what's maybe some tips or advice you might give yourself? Any thoughts on that?
So I think the best advice I would want to give my younger self is just because someone tells you that this is your path or this is what the next step is, really take the time to observe how it feels for you. Because there are 7+ billion people on this earth, and that means there's 7+ billion different paths to take. And, I jumped into my college career because, well, my brother did this, and that just felt like that's what I was supposed to do. Do I use a little bit of it? Yeah, I went to school for agricultural communications. So my husband always says, but you went to school for communications, like you like to talk to people.
Yep.
Yes. Ironically, that's not what the majority of my college career really focused on. So I feel like that advice I would want to give to my younger self or anyone who is in that phase of, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. Really take the time to assess it. Really take the time to sit with it and just see how it feels. And know that just because some other people don't necessarily see what you're seeing, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And it doesn't mean that that's not where you're supposed to pursue it. And if it doesn't work out the way you think it is, it's okay. There's always a new direction to take. So that's okay too. So.
Yes. I love that you say that too, the end part of it doesn't mean you made a mistake or that you failed, because you even helped me. And I mentioned recently about my 60-day sprint when I was thinking about whether to stop at the day 26 of that first attempt. And one of the things that I remember you telling me was that I don't have to do it by the book. And I was like, well, crap. Like, I don't have to, like, I can make my, put my own spin on this thing. And then also helping me realize that it was not a failure. Lessons learned in this 26 days of that experience, and not to be so hard on myself. And where do you go from here? And I remember another question you were asking me is, so how would you feel if you continued through the rest of your 60 days? And then how would you feel if you didn't and you stopped and you pivoted? And those were huge for me to be able to make the decision that I did and
Mhm.
to be able to move forward. So I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
And so my training, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I will remember the first day I sat in my coach certification training and they were like, there is no right or wrong, there is no good or bad. And I went, yes, there is.
Technically, there's.
But the more you really unpack that,
Mhm.
what makes it right? What makes it wrong? Someone else's opinion, someone else's perspective, somebody else's guidebook from, 3,000 years ago told us that it was right or wrong.
Yep.
They didn't know what you would be doing today. They don't know how your brain works. They don't know what your mission is or your values are. Like, why is it fair to you to say that you failed? And that's why people say, oh, failure's a good thing. There's so much negative energy about even the word failure.
Yep.
Which is why I ask the questions like I do but what lessons did you learn? Like, what do you want to do from here that makes it productive? Those 26 days that you went through, make it productive.
Right.
That's all you got to do.
Yes. Yes. So, Lindsay, we will come back to where you
Yeah.
are now, what you do, and your amazing coaching skills that you have. Let's go back. And when you went to college, you said you went for agricultural communications.
Yeah.
So, what got you into that path?
Yeah. So I grew up on a farm. I was in 4-H and FFA, and I was like, that's just it. It was natural. It was comfortable. Everybody loves a good comfort zone, right? I went to school at Ohio State University, and my brother was at school at Ohio State. And I historically am not a big risk taker. So for me, when I was going to school, I was going without really any other friends. Like, I didn't really know anybody else going. So for me, it was comfortable. I was already doing something kind of scary, but I went because, well, my family goes to Ohio State. That's what we do. I had 2 cousins graduate from there. So I was like, I'm going to go into agriculture because that was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to go into ag business because I didn't want to go run a grain mill or run my farm or anything like that. I didn't want to go into animal science because I didn't want to go be a vet because I'm not good at math or science. And I didn't want to go into agricultural education because I didn't want to be a teacher. That left ag communications. So it was kind of like, well, what else do you do? So I went for agricultural communications, and because I always was like, I love to talk to people. Like, I love the connection with people. Well, then when you go, it's a lot of journalism. Like, this is not what I thought.
I was wondering, when you went into the program, like, is there a perception of this is what I'm going to do with this degree? Like, this is where I'm going to work, or this is the kind of things that I'm going to do.
So again, I kind of went in without, I maybe am not the best researcher because I kind of said, well, this is what's left. But the more I got into it, and the more I was focused a lot on journalism or communicating with different agricultural organizations. So, like Ohio Farm Bureau Association, things like that, going and supporting them. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Fair.
I think
some people do that.
Yeah, I think some people did. I do know some other people that graduated with the degree that are using it very effectively. But I think they probably went into it with a little more education, informed decision more than I did. So it is what it is. So.
Yep. So what did you do, like, when you were nearing the completion of your degree? Were you working at the time, or was it after college that you started working?
Yeah. So I started working with Target stores when I was in my senior year at Ohio State. And it started as just a seasonal job. Like, it was towards the end of the holiday season. And they'll hire anybody in the holiday season. So I think I got hired on the spot when I went in and filled out an application. I was a seasonal cashier, finished my my senior year there, and as I was starting to look for jobs, it was like, I'm going to have to move to get anything like realistically within my degree.
Mm.
Because in agricultural communications, a lot of that stuff is focused more towards like Midwest, like,
Oh, okay.
You're going into the Corn Belt and things like that. You go work in Kansas, you go work in, those types of areas. And so I moved back home, lived with my parents, and transferred stores with Target. And I got into like an hourly supervisor for the cashier. So I was working full time, and I started helping in human resources. And they were like, you're kind of good at this. We could see you doing more. So that's when I got promoted into human resources. Like it's called an executive team leader with Target stores. So you were that like salaried supervisor position. You were a key holder for the store, all that kind of stuff. So that's what led me into, gosh, ended up being 12 or 13 years in HR.
Oh, wow.
And again, I kind of went in blind.
Let's see how this goes. Let's see how it works.
Because I love people. Like, I love helping people. I love hearing people's stories. I love really kind of understanding why is it that you do what you want to do? Like, how is that supporting you? Which is, just exploded in the last 3 years. But it was a lot again. And I told somebody this the other day. I said, I didn't really understand that HR isn't necessarily 100% for the employees.
I was telling somebody that the other day.
So I really wanted to be an employee advocate. I really want, you get burnout after a while of saying, here's the feedback. I'm going to supervisors, I'm talking to people, and I'm saying, here's feedback from the team. And they're like, well, we just can't do it. They're just a bottom performer. Okay. So
did you do the same? Were you in the same type of role for that whole 12, 13 years that you were?
So I was with Target stores within that human resources role for about 5 years. And then in that 5 years, I got married and had my first child. So I had my son when I was with Target. And the retail, like, again, knowing I never intentionally wanted to get into retail as a career in the first place. And then it did not work for the family dynamic that I wanted to have. And I will always tell people Target is a great company to work for if it matches, your intentions, if it matches what works for you and your family. I got tired of working every other weekend. I got tired of working nights. I got tired of not being able to have time off during the holidays. Like, that wasn't what I wanted for my family. So in June of 2013, I moved companies, and I became a regional HR for a used car dealership. It's called Buyrider. So they're kind of the buy here, pay here. They finance it, So we had, I think, 30 company stores at the time. So I supported stores in Columbus and Cincinnati when I first started. And then I moved up into Cleveland, and then I moved up into Pennsylvania, and, all the things. So I worked for them until 2017. And then again, life happens, and you're like, I'm done traveling. I'm done driving, spending 6 hours a day in the car. And all my other life stuff has happened. And the end of 2017, I moved to my last HR position, which was for a heating and cooling contractor close to home. No real travel. But I was like, hey, I get to start my own department, because they had never had HR before.
Okay.
So I always tell people, I was really fixing like surface level stuff of like, hey, I'm getting burnout here. Hey, I'm not excited about this anymore. So I was like, oh, I get to create my own department. This will be so much fun. Until you go back to the reality of, it's not about the employees. It was, but So it really went back to, what do the owners want? So that was, I spent the last almost 4, I guess it was about 4 years of my HR career there. So.
Okay. And then what happened, because you have since left the the corporate and the HR space to be a coach out on your
Yes.
own. So, was there something that happened that really changed your mindset and this is where I need to be instead?
Yeah. So my transition was when my husband had his accident. So my husband farms for a living, and December 1st of 2014, he called me and told me he had cut his leg off, like very casually, nonchalantly.
I'll be okay. Don't worry. It's like
Very much in that shock moment. I was telling somebody the story the other day. I said it was a Monday morning. It was 10:30. I was getting ready to go into an IDP conversation, so a development conversation with a store leader. And my phone
you had
rang.
one or you had both kids at this time?
I had both kids. So I had my daughter in July of 2014, and then this happened December 1st of 2014. So she was 4 months old when this happened. So my son was 3, she was 4 months old. And we were getting ready to go into this meeting, and I see my phone's ringing, and I was like, oh, he hates it when I don't answer. Let me answer real quick, and then we'll get started. And he's like, hey, you need to come home. I think I cut my leg off. And I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, honey, I'm not kidding you. Like, again, it's just the sheer shock of his body that can have this conversation at the moment. So that's where things started to snowball. So that happened. There was no saving the limb at that point based on how he lost his leg. So the doctor said, he'll heal in about 6 to 8 weeks. Let this heal up. And then he'll be fitted for a prosthetic. 3 or 4 months, he'll be up and moving. That was December of 2014. He got his first prosthetic in February of 2016. So we went over a year. He had 1 round of MRSA infection in that time, lots of plastic surgeries. We just had one of those moments where you're like, what else gets to happen next? Because we know something else is coming. We know it.
Yeah, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes. Yeah. So again, like in that period of time, my son started and finished preschool. Our daughter had her first birthday. Yeah. Right after her first birthday, we found out she somehow broke her hip. I felt like the worst mother in the world because I have no idea how that happened. Oh my gosh. But so she was in a cast like that wrapped around her waist all the way down her right leg. My husband was in bed. So it was like one of those things of people would always ask, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't think I had a choice.
That's what I had said too. They're like, how are you so strong? And you're like, I didn't realize like there was an alternative that I could crawl into a ball and hide somewhere.
Yeah. So what I started realizing, like it was, I think December 2016 when my husband gave me for Christmas was a vacation because I was telling him for months, I'm like, I just need a break. Like I need to not be needed.
Because this whole time you're still working full time.
Still working full time.
Kids, you're taking care of him.
Yes, yes. Thankfully, his mom lives very close, and so she was a huge help. But again, I was having to do some travel for work. So I was having to coordinate like, hey, can you take care of the kids? Can you help him? Like, what are we doing around surgeries? What are we doing about doctor's appointments, physical therapy, all of those things. Right. He is also type 1 diabetic, my husband. So the healing is kind of, always up in the air. So he surprised me with a vacation. We went to the Dominican Republic. I was like, oh, this is just what I need. Like, I need this break. Like, I'll be back and I'll be fine. Again, surface stuff. 1 week away does not erase a year and a half of stress and anxiety. Yes. And all of the issues are still there. Mm-hmm. So that was, we went to Dominican Republic, February of 2016. I don't know if you know this. The day we came back, I had a seizure while I was driving. Everybody was in the car. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Like, this is just my body's response to like all of these things that are happening. And I know this now because again, Learning is awareness. Learning is paying attention. So
Wow.
that happened. So then I couldn't drive for 3 months because the doctors are like, your brain looks perfectly fine, but we don't want to put you in that scenario. Like this is normal. Like we're always going to put you on that driving hold. So I had to work full time, figure out how to get to work.
Oh my
You know,
gosh. Were you able to work at home at
I
all?
did work
Because
some
that's
from
probably also
home.
chaotic with
Yeah.
everything at home.
I did do a lot of working from home. Again, my mother-in-law was huge to be able to jump in and help. And my husband could drive. So his amputation was his left leg, which is a blessing. So then he could still drive. So as he was getting more mobile and things like that, that was helpful. Um, so that was 2016. And again, then at the end of 27 into 2017, I got the new job because I was finally like, again, surface stuff. Let me be closer to home. Let me not have to worry about travel. That'll take some stress off because
Right.
I won't have to worry about travel. Into 2018, I'm in the position for 3 months. And I'm like, okay, I still don't love it. Like something's not right.
Yeah.
So that's where I went to like really intensify my learning of myself. And I was like, I just need some time. Like I need some quiet time. Now knowing my human design, I understand this is what I needed all along.
Right.
Because I'm a manifester. So I am all about like internalizing and quiet time and all of those things.
Hmm.
But the beginning of 2018, I started setting my alarm on the weekend so I could have a quiet cup of coffee before the kids woke up. And I bought a devotional book and I was like, let's just like find some calm, some sanity because it's not existing right now. And in those moments is when I vividly remember like the thought popping in my head of go be a coach. Like I still remember that day. I couldn't give you the date like I can give you my husband's accident, but I vividly remember I didn't really even know what it was at the time. Like again, in human resources, I had a good, clear understanding of like executive coaching and
Hmm.
leadership and things like that. So when I started that journey, that's what I thought I would do. Is like to go into that. Cy Wakeman was kind of like my first. I don't know if you know Cy Wakeman, but
Yeah.
she was kind of like my first coach crush, I guess. Because I loved her style and just her like clear, like look at the facts.
Yep.
Here's the facts. So that's when my journey into coaching came and where my awareness really kind of has evolved from there. Was in the beginning of 2018, and here we are today. So
Well, and I like what you said too about realizing you needed to take those moments of quiet and silence and it came to you. Because a lot of times, me included in the past, have said, I just wish there was a freaking sign and I would know what direction to go from here. And people are like, well, if you're quiet and you like, ask for it and then you sit there and you wait and you're patient and it's like, I don't
yeah,
know. But
yeah.
have you had different maybe coaching clients that have felt that, and what kind of advice do you give them? Because I know not just me but a ton of people are impatient.
Yes. Me
So
included. Thank you.
so how do you get that patience while you're waiting to kind of figure out what's that direction forward?
I love that question because it's about learning how to trust yourself and trust that it's coming. A lot of times we focus on the problem. A lot of times we focus on, I wish it wasn't happening this way. I wish it wasn't unfolding. I wish it wasn't taking so long.
Yep.
We are focusing on the stressor. We are focusing on what's not working instead of focusing our energy on the solution. Instead of focusing on, I trust that it's coming because I'm preparing myself for it to come.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a lot more, like people like to call it woo woo, it's like,
Is it the manifestation, like manifesting?
Yeah. Like I love law of attraction. Like
Mm-hmm.
I because we are creating every moment.
Yeah.
And when you really like step back to think about, am I coming from a place of fear of it never happening, or a place of gratitude because it's coming?
Oh, I like
Those
that.
are two very different energies, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm a core energy coach. So we talk a lot about energies. We talk a lot about, and a lot of that is emotions. I love to talk to my clients about the emotions of it, the feelings of it, because that's your roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I just want a sign. I just want to know. The universe continues to give us signs until we pay attention. They
Right.
get bigger and bigger and louder and louder and louder. And we're like, gosh, I wish I would have known this sooner. Well, 6 months ago, it was telling you the same thing. You just weren't paying attention. So, because you were looking at it from the perspective of, when is it going to happen? Why isn't it happening yet?
Yeah. So siloed and not realizing these other
Yes.
things were happening that
Yeah.
were giving you signs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just appreciating the fact it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I even, because I talk a lot about, language, the words we use, the thoughts that we entertain, even catching yourself to say it's going to happen one day versus every day I'm creating it. Even saying it's going to happen is still putting it out to say it's not happening yet.
Mm.
Every day I'm creating what I want. Every day I'm creating the business that I want to have. Every day I'm creating the family experience I want to have. Just speak it. Just say it. Just think it. Write it down. I don't care how you get it out. But the more we practice it, and again, that's why I talk a lot about practice instead of trying. Trying means that you're setting yourself up to fail at some point, and you're like giving yourself this safety net.
Mm.
If you practice it, it's just warm up. It doesn't have to be perfect,
Yeah.
but it's practice.
Yep.
You're not expected to be perfect, but you're practicing.
Yeah. And a lot of
So,
that, I feel like that perfectionist mindset, that's more us. Or it could be like those assumptions that we've carried on throughout life, or cultural assumptions, or whatever that
yes.
is, that we need to do this and be just perfect. Whereas our idea of perfect and somebody else's idea of perfect could be very, very different too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love that. I love that you say that, because there's a lot of um, expectations. Again, and when you really start to peel all this back, it's like, it's normal because that's what my family told me that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about, oh, somebody's weird or somebody's crazy, and again, like, even when people say, oh, I'm a hot mess, stop telling yourself that. Stop
Because you start
saying
to
that out
believe
loud.
it the more you say
Yes,
it.
you're
Yes.
creating yourself into a hot mess because you say it.
Yes.
But we do it because it makes it safe. It helps us feel more comfortable when we don't want to do our makeup. We just say, oh, I'm a hot mess, instead of saying, you know what, I really didn't want to do my makeup today.
Yes.
Just own it. That's okay.
We were just watching the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
Yes.
and we got to the point we're watching it with my mom and my husband, kind of for her to see it. And she went to bed, and then after her husband fell asleep, she got up. She put all the lotion on her face and everything, the curlers in her hair, and she went to bed. And then before he woke up in the morning, she gets up, she gets all ready and everything like that. And I thought of turning to my husband and being like, this is what you get. Like, I ain't putting in all of that
Yes.
every day. Like crazy.
And why?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I always like to say there's kind of these three levels, because there's the self-awareness of like, okay, really understanding, I guess this is how I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's self-acceptance of saying, okay, I can be okay with this. And then there's self-appreciation of like, I really love me in whatever way I'm going to show up. And like, that's where like you get really in tune with your intuition. That's where you get to really say, it doesn't matter if anybody else sees it. It doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. I know that I'm living my purpose. I know that I'm just trusting where it's going. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much more fun.
Yes. Yes. So, Lindsay, do you want to share a little bit about what you're doing now within your coaching business? Like, what are some of the opportunities if somebody wanted to work with you? Because you have a lot of great things going on.
Yeah. So like I was telling you earlier, like I have found like my zen in really supporting women who have these big ambitious goals and dreams and who are getting burnt out. So I really focus on that burnout recovery and prevention. But here's the deal is that you can't prevent it if you're actively in it. so so there's really kind of this opportunity to say, which one am I? Am I getting to the point where I'm noticing that I could be getting burnt out, or am I already there? So what I really just like to start with is a call. It's kind of like the burnout assessment as we get to figure out like, where are you at on that kind of spectrum? I work with clients mostly one-on-one for a year-long commitment because we get to focus on that recovery. And then we get to shift into, okay, now that I'm out of it, how do I not get back into it again? How do I prevent that? So it's kind of like a 6-month thing of 6 months we get to focus on recovery, 6 months we get to focus on prevention. So we work together one-on-one. You get to come into my membership group, which Tracy so graciously hosts for me on Upscale University. And it's beautiful. So thank you for that.
And I love the name. You want to share the name?
Yeah, the Sanity Room. So I have the Sanity Room because, like I said before, like I remember feeling like there was just absolute chaos all around me. And it's not that like my family still doesn't have struggles. It's not like we don't, like my son was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic in January of 2018. So I live with 2 type 1 diabetics. Have you ever tried to go to the pharmacy and pay for insulin? It's not fun. so me like loving life at this point doesn't mean that things don't cause frustration.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, again, what's the most productive way to walk through it? But I work with clients one-on-one primarily. I do have the membership group that you can join in as kind of your taste into the Sanity Room. That's a month-to-month membership, no commitment, anything like that. I have what I call, if we're not quite ready for the one-on-one experience, like year-long commitment, because I get it, like that's a commitment. We're getting married for a year. Don't tell my husband, but but I do what I call my weekly reboot calls. So if you're like, I just need a quick hit to like get me back on track. So those are 15-minute calls once a week. And again, no commitment, no contract, anything like that. It's really just your opportunity to get that support. I have so many people say, you're just kind of like my emotional support. And I remember telling somebody like a year ago, like, I feel like I'm an emotional support animal for ambitious women.
I love it.
And I laughed about it. I was like, it's kind of true though. Because there's no judgment. Because there's no like, oh, you need to do it this way. I let you be who you're going to be. I let you feel how you want to feel. Because it's not wrong, because you feel it. The question is always going to come back to, what do you want to do with it? Is it supporting you? Is it getting you where you want to go? So you can start with the weekly reboot calls, get a taste for it, and then you can be like, okay, now I need all of the support.
Well, and I can also say from experience, because I think we had done, I think it was maybe a part of a different program, we had done a 10-minute call at one time. And before we got on the phone, it was maybe the day before we got on the phone, all I could think of, and you were the first time I had ever done a 10-minute, like,
oh yeah,
got on one of these.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way in, that in 10 minutes we're going to do anything. Like, and I bet a lot of people listening are even thinking of that. Like, I got a lot of crap going on. Like, how are we going to do this? But you are amazing in the way that you're able to talk and ask the questions and get me or the person to be able to focus on what is the thing that they want to focus on. And like you said, those different guiding questions, or not so guiding maybe, to asking, like, is that supporting you? And if it's not, what direction are you wanting to go to? And I can tell you in that 10 minutes, it was like, oh my gosh, like Mind blowing. Mind
Yeah.
blowing.
And I like to say I'm kind of like your filter. So I filter through all of your emotion. I filter through all of the story,
Yep.
and I focus on the energy. I coach your energy. I coach the story behind the story.
Well, and so many times we ourselves don't see or maybe even feel the energy as much as
Hmm.
somebody else. And like when we did our 10-minute, we weren't even on video. It was,
Yeah.
I think it was on the phone.
Yeah.
And for people to hear you talking through, you really have a sense of what is their energy look like.
I actually love phone calls over video when I do coaching because I worry so much less about like if I'm like looking down or because I'm going to focus myself in different ways that if you look at me, if we're watching each other on a video call, you're gonna be like, what are you even, you're not paying attention to me.
Oh,
But
no.
really I am like tapping into what's the feeling behind that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where is that taking us? And I always wrap up my calls with what's your biggest takeaway?
Yes.
Because you're going to learn something that you may not have even known was what you thought the problem was when you came into the call.
Yep.
Because I was listening to it differently than what you were.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a difference. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very awesome.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to attend. You had a retreat
yes.
in Hocking Hills, Ohio, and that was just amazing. Signed up for that very blindly,
Yeah.
thinking I need to put myself out there. And what was interesting is how many women total were there?
I think we had 14.
So 14. We came
Yep.
on a Friday night. We left
Mhm.
on a Sunday morning. And when we had those 14 women there were maybe like I think 2 people
Yeah.
before then, and it sounds like, Lindsay, that a lot of other people were in that same boat.
There
Like,
were
they
people
didn't
that showed
know.
up I had never met in person.
Okay.
Like,
Blind faith, blind trust in what you're doing.
Yep,
Go in,
yep.
and I can tell you that weekend was just mind blowing. It was changing for how I think about things and how I approach things, and it really was a launch pad for me to even be able to do things differently.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank
yes,
you.
and the people that we met, it was just it was really, really amazing what you're
Yeah.
able to do.
I had people planning vacations together, like literally had never met each other before they walked in there Friday at, 6 p.m. And by Saturday afternoon, they're like, hey, I'm going to Vegas. Do you want to go with me?
Yes.
I'm like, what is happening? And again, like I just kept saying, I'm trusting that everybody is there that needs to be there.
Yep.
I'm trusting that everybody's getting out of it what they need to get out of it. And it all falls into place because you're not attached to the outcome. You're not attached to, oh, I'm doing this because I need XYZ.
Right.
I'm doing it because it feels like the perfect next step.
Yes.
So I've got another one in September. We're going to Destin. So, we
there you go.
Put that one on the calendar too.
So, Lindsay, if somebody wants to connect with you, follow you, or even look at your services, what you provide, or maybe Destin is an opportunity for them, how would you recommend that they do that?
Yeah. So following me on Facebook is probably best case to see, like on-demand content. So it's just Lindsay Jacobs Dunlap. It's my personal profile, is where I do most of my sharing. I do have a business page, Lindsay Dunlap Coaching, or you can check out my website. It's just lindsaydunlapcoaching.com. I am super original. But again, don't overcomplicate it, right?
Well, and I love too, you have been like with your website, I know you were working on figuring it out, kind of learning it on your own, and
yes,
being able to put that out there. And when you were doing that, I was like, yes.
and here is another testament to, I always tell people, don't skip steps. When you push so hard, when you're like, I have to get this out, I have to get this out, that's when it gets hard. That's when it gets overwhelming. That's when it gets stressful.
Yep.
When I finally was like, oh, I could do this. This doesn't seem so hard. Or even asking myself, this is a question I love asking myself lately, is what gets to make this easier?
Ooh.
It doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to be like, I have to pass it off because I don't want to do it. But what can make this easier? And then I was like, oh, okay. Like you notice when tension just kind of starts to melt and you're like, oh, my shoulders drop and your jaw less, tension lessens.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay. So that's doable. And it came together so quickly. I was like, wow.
I
I was
love
kind of
that.
proud of myself.
You did start it, and then it felt like it wasn't very long before you're like, oh, it's ready. I'm putting this out there. And
Yeah.
good to
Yeah.
go.
And I build like landing pages now. I'm like, who is this person? Who is this?
And Lindsay came to me because she was like, I am so not technical.
Yeah.
Like, how do I do
I
this
still believe
group? How
that,
do I
but
do
that's
that? You know enough to be dangerous now. That's what
apparently, yes. But yes, you can check out, I've got a resources page on my website. You can check out all the services. There is a link to grab a spot for Destin if you are interested in retreat style, kind of dip your toe in like Tracy did. So it's all there.
Awesome.
So,
well, thank you again, Lindsay. I
yes.
appreciate that you had agreed to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So that's it for this episode. I hope everyone joins us for the next one. And until then, have a great day. Bye. All right. This podcast is brought to you by Upskill University. You can find more information about how to become part of the Upskill community for free, this and other episodes of the Through the Lens of Learning podcast, and more on the website at www.upskilluniversity.com. Thanks again for listening and have an awesome day.